I didn't even know who I was. I literally had no idea outside of the uniform. I had no idea who I was. I didn't find joy and peace in things anymore. The things that I
Mm.
used to like, that it was gone. I focused on work and being a mom, and that was it. Those were my two identities. Anything outside of that, I had no idea who Lynnette was. And once I started going through and healing, and the biggest piece for me was actually being vulnerable, because I had always deemed being vulnerable as being weak. And I was told in the very beginning of my job as well, the one thing that you're not going to do is you're not going to cry.
Mm.
This is a job where you're not allowed to cry. So I didn't. I didn't cry for like 9 years, but I punched holes in walls and I had anger outbursts to the extreme. But the softness within me, it was gone. Like I was just armored up. I had no idea who I was outside of that uniform.
The abuse of prescription drugs by young people is on the rise, and the CSRA is not immune to this very real issue.
A lot of young people think prescription drugs are less risky because they're prescribed by a doctor. Preventing domestic violence, it is the goal of a panel comprised of some heavy hitters, the state's attorney general, law enforcement agencies, and advocacy groups.
Hi everyone. 4 years after the invasion of Iraq, it's a good time to take stock. Since the war began, 3,192 U.S. troops have been killed, more than 24,000 wounded, at least 50,000 Iraqi civilians have died.
It's war.
Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome back to W.A.R. War. We're all recovering. I want to start with a little something personal today, because people hear the name war, W.A.R, and they think that, it means I'm past everything, like I'm finished healing, like recovery means you don't get shaken anymore. But the truth is, I created W.A.R because I am still recovering. This is not a brand built from perfection, people. It's built from survival. And today's guest represents exactly what this movement is about. Lynnette Fritshaw. She's a retired career firefighter, trauma coach, and an author of the memoir, You're on Your Own. Her work is rooted in a powerful truth she lives by. You don't have a secret. You have a story. Lynnette, welcome to War. We're all recovering. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm just dealing with the golden doodle, I'm doing great other than that. So, Lynnette, your bio says you were the first female career firefighter in your hometown department. I love that. What was it like, walking into that world in your own words? Was anything welcoming?
No, it was like I walked into a different world, totally
Right.
another world. There had never been a female career firefighter in my hometown department. So, of course, I'm the type of person that when I find out there's a challenge, then I take it on. And I was like, well, it might as well be me. So they
Right.
fought me tooth and nail every step of the way, tried everything that they could possibly think of for me not to be able to get hired. And I am relentless and I just wouldn't give up. And I thought, I will get in here. I will prove to you that a female can do this job. And I sacrificed my own self in the process, but I did it.
Right,
And,
right,
I made it, but it was far from welcoming.
right. So was that traumatizing to you at all?
Extremely traumatizing. And I didn't actually understand that until I started going through deep healing just a few years ago before I retired. I was told in the very beginning of my career, it was actually my very first day on the job. A captain took me aside. I had been an auxiliary for 4 years, so I had been volunteering my time for 4 years. Everybody knew who I was. I'd, dedicated my time and stuff to the department. And then I got hired. And my very first day on the job, the captain on duty took me aside. He took me into the dispatch room. He closed the window and he closed the door because he wanted to have a little chat. Said, congratulations, you did it. You landed your dream job. You must be so excited. But there's something you need to know. We've all been in conversation and we're all in agreement that if you get yourself into any kind of trouble, we're not coming to save you. You're on your own.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that knocked my world upside down. I didn't even really understand it at the time, but the betrayal with that, when it's your brother, these are the guys that I'm supposed to be able to count on. We
Mm-hmm.
work as a team. We do everything together, 2 in, 2 out. You don't ever do anything alone. And he literally looked me in the eye and said, we will leave you to die. So just
Wow.
know that.
That's amazing. That matters because people think trauma only comes from, one event. But sometimes, trauma comes from years of being told silently or loudly, you don't belong here. And but you wouldn't think that type of organization would be like that. It's just that's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite a toxic culture, in all honesty. What happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. It's a paramilitary structure. So it's you respect the
Mm,
rank, do as I say, not as I do. So it goes on a lot. And since I've started opening up and telling my story, like I've actually had more men come forward and say, I was bullied, I was harassed. I quit the job that I loved because I couldn't handle, the constant betrayal, the bullying that went on. So it's not just because I was a female. It was a little more extreme because I was
mhm.
a female and they made it very clear, some of them, that I was not welcome and they didn't want me there. I mean, they told me to my face, "You're a really nice girl. I like you, but we don't want you here."
It is what like that makes me wonder if, my female counterparts in the military was ever been through something like that. Like I've never heard stories from anyone, even, females close to me tell me anything like that. Like I'm like wondering. I'm gonna reach out and I'm gonna find out, like, because I'm pretty sure there were, but people just don't speak up.
I I didn't say a word. I did
Right.
not tell anyone other than my mom about what happened in that conversation that day. Like,
Mm,
it sent me for a loop, and I thought, I can't tell anyone. I don't have any friends in here. I don't know who I can trust, who I can't, but I'll tell you, it
right.
changed how I did my job because I had
Right.
that in the back of my mind at every call that I went to because I didn't know if what he said was true or not.
Right.
Didn't wanna get myself into any kind of trouble because I didn't wanna find out if there was any truth behind his statement.
Right. Right.
So I always self-talk, make sure you don't get into trouble. Okay, be careful. I was constantly on alert and making sure that I was aware of everything that
Right.
was going on around me, which held me back. And I know that now it held me back in being able to do my job to my full potential. I was good at my job and I never let it hinder it, but I know that I held myself back because I just didn't have that trust with these guys that I'm supposed to be able to trust my life with. But I didn't
Right.
tell anybody, and I that is my biggest regret, but I also know that if I would have told anybody in the very beginning, I wouldn't have had a career
Mhm.
because they were looking for ways to get rid of me already. And so I just kept it a secret. I just stuffed it down as deep as I possibly could. And I sacrificed my own well being to keep that secret and keep others comfortable for my entire career. And it wasn't until shortly before I retired that I actually started telling the truth about what really had gone on and the things that had been said. And some guys knew because they had been part of those backroom conversations. And those conversations were actually true. They had had agreements and they were in, you know, courts to make this happen.
Mm.
Whether they would have followed through with it or not, I'm not sure, but there were guys
Right.
who had integrity, they had morals, they had values, and I did trust them with my life. Like, I don't paint all of the guys with the same brush. There were definitely really, really good men.
Right.
It was just those few that put betrayal
Mhm.
ultimate form, and I didn't understand that's traumatizing. I had every coping mechanism you could possibly think of for the job because I knew I was gonna see things and do things that are extremely abnormal, extremely traumatizing, and I had healthy coping mechanisms in place for that so that I wouldn't get PTSD or I wouldn't get
Right.
eyes. But I didn't have healthy coping mechanisms put in for betrayal trauma and all of the personal attacks that went on. Instead, I just deemed it as normal. This is just
Mhm.
how they treat me, so this is just normal. And then it became their normal because I allowed it. So that became their normal way of treating me and talking to me. They talked down to me. They made sure that I knew that I wasn't welcome, that I was a pain in the ass, that I was whatever they deemed that day. I was their punching bag, their sounding board. And I just, okay, thanks, and continue on my way.
Well, props to you, for being able to continue to do your job because, like, I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes right now. And I'm thinking mentally that would have bothered me, just going in to a dangerous situation, such as, what you guys do, fires, rescuing people and everything like that. And then having to worry if my brother got my back or whatever. So I would have like props to you for, being able to overcome that. Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
It took me a long time, but I had to actually admit it to myself about what was really going on. because for most of my career, like I said, I just kept it a secret, and I sacrificed my well-being.
Mm,
I wasn't living, I wasn't thriving. I was literally in survival mode. I was functioning in a trauma response on a daily basis. I was
mm,
so hypervigilant. I was trying to mitigate threat at every turn, every corner. Like
right.
it messed me up badly.
Yeah.
I was very psychologically injured, but I just didn't know it.
I'm so sorry to hear that. That's deep. And you've openly said your experience, including, you spoke about, bullying, discrimination, misogyny is daily life, right? So what do you think people misunderstand about trauma that happens inside systems of authority?
Well, I mean, these men in authority positions, I say men because that's usually who it is. Like I said, we're taught to respect them, right? You have to respect the rank. They earned it. They've earned their spot. So, one day you'll be there. And until then, you're just going to do as you're told. You're going to be treated however they choose to treat you. And that's just what you do because you want this job so bad. This career is like the most amazing career in the world. I loved it. Like I loved it, but you just follow through because that's what you're told to do. And then eventually I just got to a point where I was like, this is not changing. I've been doing this 14 years full time and nothing is changing. This bullshit is still happening on a daily basis. I got completely screwed over on a promotional position because it was personal. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And I've decided to leave the career that I loved. It was a difficult decision, but it was one that I knew I had to do.
So even with promotion and everything like that, it still continued?
Yep. Yeah, because the guy that was in authority, management has the right to manage. That's all I got told all the time.
Mm.
So he chose to manage however he wanted, and it was very personal.
So let me ask, were there I'm pretty sure there were other, newbies to come in after you. Like the focus wasn't shifted from you at all to the newbies?
No, because there were still the certain few that like it was personal against me. And so it carried on throughout my entire career.
Mm,
They always did the hazing and they did the things like that when new guys started. They did it to me too. And I was excited because I thought it made me feel included. That's part of the culture. If they didn't haze you or do those pranks on you, then you weren't part of the brotherhood.
right.
So we all took part in those things and it was just part of the welcoming. And so the focus was still, though, the digs, the constant, things behind the scenes that nobody else could see. And it just didn't stop.
That's, the invisible injuries, the scars you carry from the people who are supposed to be from your team that's just crazy. It's
Well, it's a
I don't
job
like
of life or death situations. And
right,
you're counting on these people with your life. And I can't
right.
trust them on a day to day basis, but I'm supposed to trust them in an emergency situation.
Yes,
It's
yes.
tough. It's very tough.
Right.
But I guess I am stubborn enough that I felt like I could hold my own. It's like, well, I guess if I get into trouble, I'll just fend for myself because I always find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I have always found a way to get myself through everything.
Well,
So I almost
14 years.
my mentality to I'll just do it on my own.
Right. Well, 14 years is proof that you held your own. Props for that. And you write about carrying shame and painful secrets just to keep others comfortable. How did that affect your identity over the years?
I didn't even know who I was. I literally had no idea outside of the uniform. I had no idea who I was. I didn't find joy and peace in things anymore. The things that I
Mm,
used to like, that it was gone. I focused on work and being a mom, and that was it. Those were my two identities. Anything outside of that, I had no idea who Lynette was. And once I started going through and healing, and the biggest piece for me was actually being vulnerable because I had always deemed being vulnerable as being weak. And I was told in the very beginning of my job as well, the one thing that you're not going to do is you're not going to cry.
mm.
This is a job where you're not allowed to cry. So I didn't. I didn't cry for like 9 years, but I punched holes in walls and I had anger outbursts to the extreme. But the softness within me, it was gone. Like I was just armored up. I had no idea who I was outside of that uniform because I can show up in an emergency and I can do what's needed to be done and I can help my community and I can do everything possible. But for myself, I couldn't do anything for myself. There was no like actual self-care. There was no taking care of me
Mm.
until I decided to get vulnerable, which was terrifying. And then I had to get really honest. And I had to admit to myself first what was actually happening, what had really gone on. And then I had to say it out loud. That was where the book came from. I knew that I needed to tell the truth, and I did it for me. I didn't do it for anybody else. I didn't do it to cause issues with the department. I didn't do it to call anybody out. There's no names in my book. I don't need to name names because it's not about them. It's about me. And
Right.
this book was therapy times 1,000. Just being able to say the truth about me and my life and how those things affected me for the first time ever, man, it was so freeing. And I actually got to discover like who I am. And that's one of the greatest things about a healing journey is now I get to choose who I want to be. I can be
Right.
whoever I want to be.
Right.
I try new things. I can be whoever I want to be now. I don't have to be who I'm told to be, which is what I had to do in my job. I was told this is what you do. This is how you do it. This is the time you show up. This is what is happening. Same thing as a mom. You have all these things that you have to do. And now I'm like, I can do whatever I want to do. I get
Right.
to be whoever I
Right.
want to be.
Right.
It's incredible. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, this is hitting me hard because it's making me realize people sacrificing their well-being to survive environments that were never safe, and yeah, so them lines are hitting me hard, and I'm pretty sure you didn't have to name names, but I'm pretty sure the people reading the books, if they work with you, I'm pretty
They
sure
know.
they know who they are. They know who they are. you
I
know.
had people reach out to me and ask me, like, is this my relative that you're talking about? And I was like, if
hmm
you're asking, you already know. I don't even need
You
to tell you.
already know.
And I actually had a captain who retired before I even started show up at my book signing with my book in his hand, shocked me, and I didn't know what to expect. And he said, I know every piece in that book is the truth
hmm
because I know exactly who you're talking about just by the way that you,
hmm
because they did the same thing to me.
Wow, and I wonder how that makes them feel,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
he said, I'll tell you one thing. He said, I would have been damn proud to work with you.
Mm,
And that hit
right,
me like so hard in the feels because trying to work with these guys who you respect and that you're just trying to do a job. And I just wanted to learn from them and to have one of the originals come forward and say, like, I would have actually been really proud to work with you. It's like,
right,
that meant a lot.
right. I always knew like the first responders was, a lot like the military. And you're just confirming it, you know, 18 minutes into this conversation, you're confirming what I already thought. I actually wanted to be a firefighter before I joined, the army. But I decided I wanted to get out of New York, and the best way for me to get out of New York was to join the army. So yeah. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was a powerful theme you speak on is survival mode. And your program says you weren't meant to stay in survival mode. You were meant to rise. What does survival mode actually feel like from the inside?
It's darkness. There's like a little glimmer. You're just trying to keep your eye on the light. You're not thriving, you're not living, you're existing. You literally feel like you are just existing. You are existing and you are just trying to get through the day.
Right, right, right. That right there is what people need to hear, and not motivation language, what, for what they're living in, basically. Oh, this is hitting me. This is taking me back a little bit. Sorry. You describe psychological injuries inflicted by men in authority positions. Why do those wounds cut differently than the ones people could see?
Because they're personal and nobody can see them. I even explain in my book, I had abusive relationships that I was in. I was raised in an abusive home that taught me to be in abusive relationships, which taught me to be in an abusive workplace. Like the theme just carried throughout my whole life. And I kept secrets right from childhood because, again, you have an image you have to uphold and you have to keep quiet. And then, same thing, toxic abusive relationships. And I'll tell you what, I would take the physical abuse over the psychological abuse that I endured later on with the psychological injuries and the betrayal trauma, because at least you can recover from the physical parts, like the bruises and things, they go away. But the internal ones, man, they take way more work, way
Right.
more work. And nobody can see them. So then you actually start to question yourself and you're like, was it as serious as I thought? Because I can't see it. I can feel it, but am I being dramatic? Am I overreacting? Because that's usually what you're told. So then you start to question your own level of sanity. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll just deem it as normal because that way I can actually cope with it and I can move on. But I would take physical injuries over the psychological ones myself, my own personal opinion, not to reflect on anybody else or anything that they've gone through. But to me, that was easier to overcome than the keeping secrets and trying to understand why people would treat me that way. And I think that's
Right.
the hardest thing is I don't think like them. So it's really hard to understand why people would do those things or say those things, treat people that way, because I don't think like that. I have that helper mentality. Like that's why I got
Right.
into fighting. Like I wanted to help people. I wanted to work as a team. I wanted the camaraderie. I wanted the teamwork with all of those pieces of going in and making an impact in my community, not to be belittled and told that I'm not good enough and told that I have to prove myself every single day. That wasn't what I signed up for.
Right. And abuse of power, you have them people that just love it, that they get off on it, you know. And I've seen it, many times in the military. You could tell when a person, the way they walk, they kind of just walk with like, oh here he come. They about to start something. They about, like, I've ran into those people so many times in the military. You just try to stay away from them, because when authority becomes trauma, you start doubting yourself, your instincts, your voice. So I feel you 100% on it.
Yeah, I've always said there's a big difference between a boss and a leader.
Oh, yes. Oh,
And
yes, definitely.
I had a leader who gave me a chance, who actually he was the one that hired me, and I thank him gratefully for that because if he hadn't been willing to go against what everybody else was trying to do and give me a chance, I never would have had a career. But he was willing to take a chance, and he got run out after that. They ran
Hmm.
him off, fired him. But then the ones that moved into the position were bosses. They were micromanaging bosses, which to me is massive insecurity, and they had no idea how to lead.
Right.
There's a huge difference in the 2.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes, ma'am. I agree with you 100%. Because I always said I wanted to be a leader and not a boss. So I'm with you 100% on that. I think some people are just born with it, honestly. And some people have it, some people don't. So some people fall into that boss position and try to be leaders, but they just can't do it. So they just, try to, I don't know, go by the book in a way, but overdo it. They just don't have it in them to actually, lead people.
No, because they're self-absorbed. It's about them. It's not about their people. So they've got it totally backwards.
Right.
When you're a leader, it's
Right.
about everybody else. It's not about you.
Exactly. Right. Yes, I agree.
So yeah,
So
I
your
left
story,
under a boss. That was one of the reasons why I left.
would you do it all over again?
I don't have any regrets because I know that what I went through got me to where I am now, and I'm making an even bigger impact than I ever could have imagined. I had to go through what I went through so that I can show other people that it can actually be done.
Right.
There always has to be somebody, and I know that that was me. I can show people that mountains literally can be moved.
Can be moved. I like that. I
And
like that.
so I had to go through it. And I believe that's what makes me so much more valuable in the coaching that I do with the trauma coaching because I have the personal experience to back it up. I have
Yes, ma'am.
certifications and all the things, but I have that personal experience and I can see it in people. I know exactly what they're trying to do. I know exactly what they're thinking. I know what they're trying to avoid because I did it. I
Yeah.
lived. And you can't get that in a certification. So it
Right.
makes me, I believe, way more valuable because I get to help the people that I used to be.
Yeah, and that's leadership right there. Leadership qualities right there. You just said it. And you say your story is about resilience, honesty, vulnerability. When did you realize healing wasn't going, to come from silence?
It was probably 5 years ago. It's just like I'm still in the depths, just like you. We talk about like you're always recovering.
Always.
It's constant. And yeah, it just started to destroy me. Like it was literally destroying me. And so that's where getting honest with myself was the first. Yeah. I just stopped lying to myself. I was consistent in all of the things that I was doing. I consistently worked out. I consistently ate good. I did all of those healthy things, but I was consistently lying to myself. So consistency is important, but you have to be careful which area you're being consistent in. And
Right.
you know what? I have never told the truth about what my life actually was like, who I actually am. Nobody even knows who I am. I don't even know who I am. And I thought I need to start getting honest. And that was where it started, was getting honest with myself. And then I realized that the treatment and the things that I had gone through were not normal. I had deemed it as normal so that I could survive and get through it, but it was not normal. You tell people little bits and pieces and they are looking at you with the most terrified look on their face. And I'm like, yeah, that actually sounds really bad, doesn't it? And I hadn't even told them like the whole thing, just little bits and pieces, and people just looked horrified. And then I had to admit to myself that I was actually a victim because I swore that I would never be a victim of any kind. I was too
Mm,
strong for that. And
mm,
I'm like, I am actually a victim. And that was a turning point for me, was admitting that to myself. And then it was like, okay, what are you going to do with that now?
right, right.
And then on the flip side, I was listening to a podcast one day and they were talking about being a legend and how being the first at something made you a legend. And it was literally like a slap across the face. And I was like, holy shit, I'm a legend. I was the very first and only career female firefighter. I am actually a legend. I had never grasped the magnitude or allowed myself to grasp the magnitude of what I had accomplished. And that was one thing that those guys can never take away from me. They
I
will never
wonder,
achieve that. I did that.
do that's amazing. Like, do they have pictures of you like no, in
I,
your
w-
honor?
I wasn't allowed to tell the media, nothing.
What?
They made me stay quiet. Other departments broadcast when they hire their first female, it's this big thing. And
Right,
they, nope. Media contacted me all the time. And I was told, do not speak to them. They kept me hidden behind doors. I was not allowed to tell anyone. I was not allowed to talk about it. They didn't publicly announce it. Like it, in my mind, would have made the department like so popular. Like they could have
right.
used that. I'm like, use me to make this department look so much better. But they wouldn't because they were too big. Their egos were too big. It was never, people would see me. I've been there for 10 years and people are like, there's a female here? She's a female driving the fire truck. And I'm like, yeah, I've been here for a decade. That's no big deal.
I can't understand that.
Yeah. No, they kept it quiet.
But everything you talk about is, that's recovery. When not when the past disappears, but when the truth finally speaks. And I learned that, the it took me a while to learn that, to be vulnerable, to come out and actually start speaking. But when I did, I tell you, I felt so much better. But being a man, we're not supposed to do stuff like,
Yeah. So they say.
yeah, so they say.
Yeah. But it doesn't do anybody any favors at all.
It doesn't. And your memoir is titled You're on Your Own. That hits hard. That hits me hard. The title alone carries weight, right? So what does it represent in your journey?
Well, the original title came from what that captain told me on my first day on the job when he told me you're on your own. And it represents honestly every piece of how I felt throughout my life. I've always felt like I was on my own. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it and I'll do it by myself. You tell me that I can't, I'll show you. I'll do it by myself if something needs to be done.
Mhm.
And then when I started getting into healing and understanding who I am and community and collaboration. It takes a village. And the more that we start sharing and the more that we start speaking, like they just start coming. It's like a safe space and people just start coming and we all need each other. So nobody's coming to save you was a big thing that I was told. And I understand it in that sense of with my job, but I also understand it that you have to do it. You gotta dig deep. The things that you're avoiding, the things that you're trying not to be in the discomfort of, you have to, because nobody can do it for you. You have to do it on your own. And once you do, it is literally the best gift you will ever give yourself. The best gift you'll give your family, your friends, those that are close to you, because whether you believe it or not, all of these pieces that you are experiencing, the trauma responses that you're functioning in, it's taking a toll on your family. It's taking its toll on the people around you because you don't realize what you're actually doing to them as well.
Yes, that's so true. Stop it. You're in my mind. Like everything you're saying is just like on point. It is so true. And I believe that I actually did a song, not to, because I like to do, poetry, write songs. And I did a song and I actually said, that my trump, like my triggers, I didn't realize my triggers was giving my wife and my son PTSD. Like I was passing tremors through the walls and I didn't know it. So it was like when you say that it's affecting, your family, that is so true. 100%. I
I mean,
love that.
my family didn't know what to do when I'm in the basement punching holes in the walls,
Yeah.
having a anger outburst, like extreme anger outburst over a sock on the floor. Like, it has nothing to do with that. But
Right.
it just, everybody was on the receiving end of me being like, I was so angry, but I was also living in a state of fear. And so those two things, like, I had no control at work over the things that were happening to me. So I tried to micromanage and control everything at home and everyone around me. And they paid the price. And that is a huge regret that I have. I have a piece in the book that's like dedicated to my son. He was just little at the time, but I have regrets in the things that I wasn't there for and the things that I couldn't give him because I couldn't even give them to myself.
Right.
And I don't know that he even knows. I'm sure he does. Like, it's, due to energy and the things inside, it will probably surface later on that he'll need therapy for that he didn't even know was happening. But yeah, I am now making sure that I am making the changes that were the damage that I caused because it was extensive.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm with you. Eye to eye with you on that. 100%. And let's talk about your book. And, because I'm going to get a copy. I got to get a copy. Are there ebooks as well?
Yep. And
Okay.
Audible is coming out like in the next, well, I just finished recording the Audible, so it will be
I
out.
seen it. I seen it on your Instagram. I seen all of the little check marks and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I'm not techie, so I'm having a really hard time with this whole behind the scenes computer uploading. There's
Right,
a lot to
right,
it that people don't even understand. I don't even understand. So I'm trying to navigate that, but
right.
I finished all the recording. There's 13 hours of recording, so it just has to be
Congratulations.
available soon.
Good
But yes,
job. Good
book,
job.
paperback, and hardcover.
Okay, okay. All right. I'll make sure to put everything in the description when I put this video out. So, your site says the book is for anyone who has been underestimated, face discrimination or silence by shame. What do you hope, the underestimated person listening right now hears through your story?
Just in all of those aspects. You're not alone. You're not alone. There are so many of us that have been through it, and I've had so many people reach out and they were like, there's so many pieces of your story that were just like mine. And they're not even a first responder. They have nothing to do with the first responder world, but just me as a person and explaining the things that I went through because it starts in my childhood. Like I said, that's where I started learning the patterns, and my life didn't start at the fire department. I started learning things. They were caught and taught along the way, and it followed through my whole entire life. And there are so many pieces that people can relate to. And for me, failure was just never an option. That's the stubborn part of me. And they underestimated me. They tried everything that they could think of to get me to quit. And they underestimated everything of all my capabilities. And so
Of
for
course.
anybody in the same boat, like, this is your story, not theirs.
Right. That's the heartbeat. That's the heartbeat of war right there. The ones who were silenced right there, finding, fire again.
Yes.
One of your defining quotes is, "You don't have a secret, you have a story." Where did that message come from?
I don't even know where I found it. I just heard it one day and it hit me. And that was actually when I started to speak up. I was like, I actually have a really big story that I need to tell. And I don't know who's going to listen, but I for myself need to tell it. And every single person has a story. And we try to hide behind the pieces that we think make us look bad or not good enough or make us a failure. That's your story. That's not a secret. And you're doing so much damage to yourself and you need to put it out there for other people. It's amazing how much your story can impact other people and you don't even know it.
Mm,
Like, I didn't know that putting this book out there, like I said, I did it just for me. And I said to myself in the very beginning, if one person can relate to it, if one person can get anything out of my story, mission accomplished. Man, I've like blown that right out of the water. Like, the impact that it's made is mind blowing to me.
right,
So
right.
to
You
anyone,
doing you're doing big things, That quote alone can unlock someone's, recovery. So I love that quote because secrets isolate, stories connect.
yes,
So I love
yes.
it. I love it.
It's actually the title of my next book.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, I'm feeling it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm loving this conversation, by the way. Through fire, I want to tell you something real quick. I was gonna when I was reading your bio and everything, before I even came across, the fire within, I was actually thinking of Fire Within in my mind that I wanted to name the title of the episode. I was like, I'm gonna name the title, She's a Firefighter. I'm gonna name the episode of Fire Within before I even read anything about the Fire Within. So I was already connecting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that.
Yeah, my business is called Fire Within Crisis Services.
I see that.
And
I
I
was like,
started
wow.
the Fire Within kind of came long before, like even before I retired, before the business was born. I was using like the little fire emojis for everything
Right.
and using
Right.
that hashtag for everything, just from a personal standpoint. And then that's how kind of the business name was born, and it just went from there.
I love it, Lynnette. I love it. So through Fire Within Crisis Services, you offer education, awareness, support, guidance for those, helping others through traumatic experience. What made you create this work after your career?
There was just such a need. I needed it, and there wasn't anything out there. So I wanted to give what was lacking. And then I originally started it in helping first responders. I took the certifications to teach the peer support programs to first responders. And then I realized that your average ordinary mom needed. I mean, every kid is in crisis and during the day. So like being able to assist people in crisis. And then it just kind of started going from there. And then I got different certifications and I started branching out. And then I discovered, like, I have a personal training background as well. So between that and my certifications, I understand that it's a whole body approach, a mental, emotional, and a physical approach to healing. And so I created the program Phoenix Rising, and it takes a whole body approach, because you can do all the mental work, you can do all the emotional work, but if you're not moving your body and releasing everything that you've suppressed, it's not going to work. So I take it from a whole different perspective, and we do a whole body approach. And man, it's magical. Like, it is so insanely powerful. The results that people get in the 12 weeks, they're not even remotely close to the same person as when they started.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
And I was actually about to ask you about, the peer support and the ISF, the Accredited Crisis Intervention Training. I was just about to ask you that until when you spoke about it. Why is peer support such a critical piece of trauma recovery?
Because we can relate to each other. When you are trying to understand the trauma and the things that we see and do in a job, going and sitting in a therapist's office, nothing against them whatsoever, but the
Just put
certification on
that
the
out there.
wall doesn't put them in, they don't know. And so peer support, like, I know what somebody has seen. I know what it's like to hold a deceased 2-week-old infant in your hands. I know what that feels like. So I want to talk to somebody that knows what that feels like. I want them, because they understand. Sitting across from somebody that learned it in a textbook, they have no idea what that's like. Peer support is so insanely powerful because we can relate to each other. And then you can go through and do therapy or counseling, or like hypnotherapy was huge for me, but peer support and being able to talk to somebody that could actually say, I get it, I've done it, and it sucks.
Lynnette, I don't know what it is, but I'm just so in sync with you right now, right? Because peer support is who saved my life, saved my life. I was in a PTSD treatment program for 6 months, and peer support was like right there. They were my best friends. Like, they knew everything, I went through, like you said. So it was like, the therapist was there, but with them, I just felt more of a connection, and like more like they were on my level, instead of, going to see a therapist who, had all these degrees and all this and that. And I felt like it was just an appointment.
Yes.
So the peer support, is the big, big thing in recovery.
It's so insanely powerful. Like, people don't understand, because it feels safe to us. You've been there, you know what it's like. That's safety to me. Sitting in an office, in a chair across from somebody who's got a clipboard and a pencil, and they're like, so tell me about your childhood. I'm like,
Right.
no,
Right.
no. And then another piece for me that I've incorporated into my business is, anytime I went to appointments, they were always time slotted. I had 1 hour. So I'd just start to open up and be vulnerable. And they're like, well, that's all the time we have for today. So I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bingo.
And I'm like, are you fucking
Yes.
kidding me? Like, I am wide open right now. So now I'm not safe. I can't trust. You've just taken me 10 steps backwards.
Right.
Your support, you don't even have to say anything. You just hold space for me and sit there beside me while I process through what it is. And most of the time we solve the problems ourselves, just by having that safe space to be able to work through it and process it. And so
Right.
in my business, there's no time frame on my appointments. I will always say to my clients, does this feel like a good space to leave it? And we're like,
I
yeah,
like that.
we've got to a place where everything feels really good, and we've got some tools, we've got some strategy, we've got things going. But I will never say, oh, my next appointment is here, so we're done. Never.
Right. Open up a can of worms and just, it's time to go.
Damaging. That causes so much damage. And that's where peer support, somebody just comes in. And like I said, they don't even have to say anything. We know. We're processing through. We know the answers. Everything we need is within us. Sometimes we just need the guidance and the support to be able to find it and work through it. And somebody just holding space for you sometimes is enough. Or asking just the right question so that you can dig a little bit deeper. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I actually answered that myself. And that's what I do with my clients. I'm like, everything you need is within you. Sometimes I just have to give you a bum spank, challenge you, and give you a little push. But they know. And as soon as they get honest with themselves, they're like, holy shit. Like, you just answered that. You just figured it out all by yourself.
Right.
I just give you a little bit of guidance. That's it. I can't do it for you, but I can guide you in the direction that I know you need to go.
Yep. I'm smiling because you sound just like the peer support, I was working with in the PTSD program. That's why I'm smiling. Yep.
I am a huge advocate for it because it's so powerful. We would do
Yes,
that at the
ma'am.
end of a call. We would all just kind of gather around the tailboard of the truck, and we would just go through, like, what was your role and what did you see? Not into feelings, because firefighters don't like to talk about feelings, but just what was your role? What did you see? And then it just kind of starts putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I was worried about that, but he actually took care of that and I didn't even know it because he was on the other side of the vehicle and I couldn't see. Okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore. We would just kind of like go around and then have this conversation. And then it's like, oh, you know what? We were all on the same page. We actually worked like a fine-tuned machine. We didn't even know it. And you can just see everybody's levels but if you walk away from a situation and you're like, hey, I have all these questions. I don't know if this was found. I don't know if this was looked after. I don't know who took care of this. And then you start creating a story in your mind. And then pretty soon the facts about what you actually experienced are gone. So when you have those conversations with peers, it's like, okay, all the pieces fit. We're all good. Everything was taken care of. I don't have to worry about anything. Doesn't give a chance for that story to start to manifest. And then it just gets
Right.
bigger and bigger and bigger. And then that's where we get ourselves in trouble.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, man. This is good. This is good. Tell me about. I'm blown away over here, by the way. So tell me about your Phoenix Rising program.
So that's the full body one. That's the mental, emotional, and the physical one I was just talking about. So it
Right.
is, we start out the first 4 weeks, you do a trauma coaching session once a week. And then we move the trauma coaching sessions to every 2 weeks for the next 8 weeks. My business stems around, I want you to take the tools and the things that we're using and utilize them and do the work yourself. I will push you along and guide you a little bit, but I'm not going to hold your hand for the next 5 years and see you every week like counselors and therapists. That's not my job. I love you, but I don't want to see you all the time. I want you to live. I want you to thrive. So I want you to take the tools that I'm teaching you and the things that you're understanding about yourself, and I want you to put them into play. So that's why I start spacing things out. And then I also create a nutrition. We kind of give you some nutrition guidance because you need to fuel your body with good food and hydration and then movement. So some of my clients, I mean, they're full in PTSD, have not moved their bodies in years. So let's start with some movement. Like, let's actually just start walking. Because if you're doing all the mental and emotional work, but you're not releasing anything from your body, because when we suppress our emotions, emotions are meant to be released. They're meant to be dealt with. But when we suppress them, they attach themselves to your tissues and your organs, which will at some point cause you dis-ease, guaranteed. So you'll start having pains and ailments that are unexplained. Go to the doctor, they run all the tests, and they're like, everything's normal. And you're like, no, I'm not normal. I'm in so much pain. And that was me. I was in so much pain. But physically, like, I was at the gym all the time. I was doing all the things, but I was in so much pain till I started to understand that everything that I had suppressed, my body was holding on to it. So when we start releasing it out of the body, just with simple movement sometimes, go for a walk. You don't have to go and do a full workout program, and we're not trying to get you stage ready in 12 weeks. That's not what this is. I just want you to start moving your body. Then start lifting some weights, start doing some things. So it just, with progression, whatever stage my client is at, we create a bit of a program to get them moving. Some of them have been moving, but they're not doing a gym program. So I'll create a workout program for them. And then it's accountability. So they have to check in with me. I'm your accountability buddy throughout any of my programs. It's not I'll see you in 2 weeks. It's you're going to text me each day and tell me what your wins are. You're going to tell me that you did your workout. I'm going to hold you accountable because we need that accountability.
So how is this done? I'm very, interested. How is this done? Is this like anybody anywhere could do this?
Yeah, with virtual, I can talk with anybody. Like I've got clients all over the world. So we do our
Mm,
trauma coaching appointments virtual. We have to have an agreement, like your camera has to be on because I need to be able to see you and make sure that you're not going to get upset and shut your camera off. So we have to have trust that way. And then I email you your workout program, your nutrition plan. And then we through WhatsApp, I mean, I can talk to anybody through WhatsApp or an Instagram Messenger, like all over the world. So they do their check-ins through chat and messenger. And then when things arise, because we're not just going to go between appointments, nothing happens. You're going to live this perfect little life from week to week in between your appointments, and we'll deal with it when I see you next week. No, something arises and you're like, okay, I was literally just slammed with this. What do I do? I'll talk you through it. Voice notes, texting. Remember that tool we used? This applies to this too. And they're like, yeah, okay. I'm like, maybe grab your journal. Why don't you start digging a little bit into that and see where that takes you? Ask yourself these questions. And they're like, okay. So I don't leave anybody hanging from appointment to appointment. I am your accountability buddy. We are besties for those 12 weeks. And then they finish the program and I'm still talking to them. They're still checking in with me. They're still, because I'm been who they've been accountable to. So they still will send me messages and say, oh, I did this today. These were my wins today. And I'm like, yes. Like I will cheer you on all across the world every single day. Like I want to celebrate even the tiniest little wins with you. Because for so long, so many of us, we focused on the lows. We lived in survival. There was nobody cheering us on. We couldn't cheer for ourselves. So when we start finding people and create a community and I can cheer for you, like I will cheer for you all day long. Throw me a message and I'll send you one back saying, I am so fucking proud of you. Like how many people tell you that? It took one person to say to me, I am so proud of you. And I was like, what? And then they're like, are you proud of yourself? And I was like, not yet. And then I started working through it and I'm like, you know what? I actually am proud of myself. They're proud of me. I'm proud of myself.
you're like some magical guru or something like. Because the stuff the stuff you talk about is like groundbreaking, and I want to do it. Like trauma lives in the body, and recovery has to live there too. So like
It does.
it
It takes
makes
the whole body.
total sense.
Yeah. So that
Right,
program is my most powerful and it's honestly my most popular as well because it gives you the full approach. And then I have another program, Ignite Your Fire Within, and that's like a healing intensive. It's like a 6-week. And then I have trauma coaching sessions, just one-on-one sessions whenever needed. So even when people finish a program, they'll go 3 months, 6 months, and then all of a sudden they send me an SOS. They're like, hey, this has derailed me a little bit. I'm like, let's have a session. We have a session, but they get a new tool or they do something and then they're off and running. And people have said to me, well, that's not a very good business plan. You're not going to make very much money if you like tell people to go and then just come back when you need me. And I'm like, that's not what it's about to me.
right,
It's about
right,
the impact that it's making. I'm helping people live their lives. I want them to live and thrive.
right,
It's not about making money every week from them. I did that. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars with counselors every week and I got nowhere. It was like talking to a friend.
right,
I want you to do
right.
the work yourself that I know you can do.
And as long as you stay true to what you're doing, the money's gonna come anyway. You
Yeah.
know, I
It's
mean,
it's
just
just a bonus. I get to do what I absolutely love. Like I am so insanely passionate about it and getting to help and support other people. And I actually was talking in my stories today and laughing because I had a client yesterday. Oh, she was mad at me. And I'm like, I love it when my clients get mad at me because that tells me that I'm doing my job, right? Because she knows that what I'm telling her is true and I'm challenging her and she was pissed off. And then
hmm
eventually she was like, man. And I'm like, you have to admit what role you're playing in your own suffering. It's not about me. This is about you. And she's like, I love to hate you. And I'm like, then I know I'm doing my job.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
That's the best
Yep.
part.
Mm, I love it. I'm completely, what's the word I'm looking for? I need a big word, or enamored
Ooh,
by you. Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. My pleasure. So what do you say to the person who feels completely disconnected from their own body after trauma?
You're not alone. We've all felt that, but it's fixable. Even PTSD or any type of diagnosis, it's fixable. It's not a life sentence. You can have that reconnection. Where trauma brings disconnection, healing and recovery brings reconnection, and it's totally fixable. I remember being so terrified of PTSD, like that title, that diagnosis, and you never wanted to have it because it was just like this death sentence. It's fixable. It's totally fixable. It's not a life sentence. And I want people to understand that. Everything that you need is within you. You just need to find it. You need to find the right support. You need to find the right guidance. and it'll show you the way. Your inner knowing will always tell you the truth. Your ego and pride will step in and it will always lie to you. It will try to protect you. But that inner knowing that you know deep down inside, it will always tell you the truth. You just have to learn to trust yourself again.
Which brings me to my next question. You speaking about the PTSD and everything. What does it mean to rise and not just survive?
Like I just said, you can come out of it the other side even stronger. Like I am living proof that post-traumatic growth is very real. Only about 10%, they say, I think is the stat that they've given, can come out the other side stronger, but it's absolutely doable. Post-traumatic growth is very real and it can happen. It's not easy. You have to put in a lot of work. As you know, it's constant and never ends. Go
Mm-hmm.
through it and be like, "Oh, I'm healed." I wish it was that easy. It's not.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Right? It's messy and it's hard, but everything that you have gone through was hard. So you gotta choose your hard, and you have a 100% success rate of overcoming everything that has been thrown at you so far. You can do this too.
Yes, and I love that post-traumatic growth. As long as you're making little steps, towards, I'm not gonna say, recovering, I don't think we totally recover. I don't think so. But as long as you're making little tiny steps in recovery, that's growth.
Well, and I also think too, like, what is recovery to a person? Like, what does completely recovered look like for somebody? Like,
Right,
I'm
right,
not even remotely close to the same person that I was. So
right.
I'm recovered from that version of myself,
Mm-hmm.
but it took every single one of those versions of me to get me to where I am now.
Right,
So I don't hate on them. I don't criticize them. I don't judge them. I don't look down on them because they got me to where I am right now.
right,
So I've recovered from those versions. And now something in my life is going to happen at this stage of my life that I'm going to need to recover
right.
from. Like
Exactly.
it's never ending. So you will never be fully out of it unless you are living in a bubble or plastic wrap.
Right,
But
right,
that's not the
right.
case. Not if
That's
you're
not the
living.
case.
No,
Not at all, not at all. And that's the fire within, not the fire that burns you,
that's right.
the fire that rebuilds you. Lynette, I want to honor you, truly, truly honor you. This has been mind blowing to me. Like I'm feeling it all in my tissues and everything like you was talking about. Like I'm feeling it right now. Cause your story is not just about firefighting. It's about psychological injury, silence, resilience and perseverance it takes to, find your fire again. And I want to leave people with your words right now. You don't have a secret, you have a story. Thank you, Lynnette, for bringing truth and vulnerability to W.A.R. and to everyone listening. Thank you so much for being here.
It's been an honor. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Till next time, guys, each one reach one. We're all recovering. Peace.
The invasion of Iraq is a good time to take stock. Since the war began, 3,192 U.S. troops have been killed, more than 24,000 wounded. At least 50,000 Iraqi civilians have died.
It's war.